recording the class so that we have it on YouTube if anybody wants to go back and review it later. But okay, welcome one and all. Today's class, you'll notice that there's a progression of our classes. Our first class was about getting to know your business, figuring out where you were in real estate, where you want to be in real estate and all of that, figuring out how much you're worth an hour so that you can time block and make sure that you're devoting everything that you should be devoting towards your business. The next class was talking about how we start to attract clients, whether it's through mailings or whether it's through sign calls and all of that. So we're going from, and we're working our way up. Today's class is about buyer conversion. So as of right now, we've assumed that all of your efforts have already led to the phones ringing and we're ready to go deal with our buyers. Next class will be seller conversion, but right now we're only focusing on buyers. Now, the purpose of today's class is to change your conversion rates. What I mean by that is if you are showing 10 people homes, what do you think you're actually going to convert into buyers that actually close and everybody makes money? Chances are is you're probably going to convert a decent amount of them. But how much time are you spending on each buyer? And how much of that is actually going against like closings? For instance, if you're working with 10 people and you close 3 or 4 of them, that's all well and good, but you're spending too much time on the people that are never going to close. So we're teaching you today a systematic approach to, as your buyers are interviewing you, because there's a lot of agents out there, we are going to be interviewing our buyers. It sounds like it's a lot of work up front, but once you start getting the process rolling and you do this on a couple of other buyers, it'll start to go much quicker, okay? And you'll be able to get through it a lot quicker. So we're trying to get your conversion rates up from maybe 3 or 4 buyers out of 10 to maybe 5 or 6, 7 or 8 at a time, because we're only going to be working with people that are serious about buying, okay? Not wasting our time. So today's mission is to ensure buyers who work with me get the home they want and want the home they get. Our vision is serious buyers take an intentional, proactive, and focused approach to finding and purchasing their perfect home. People don't just shoot from the hip, okay? We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in most cases, possibly more, depending on whom you're working with. People don't just throw that money around, okay? Go to the grocery store. You see people looking at the shelves and they're comparing prices from this brand to this brand. We're talking about a few dollars. Now we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Serious people act and take very serious steps. And if they're not willing to do that, they're wasting your time and they're wasting their own time, okay? Model. The model that we are working on is a relationship-based sales, okay? We've already created the lead. We created the lead last week. Now we've already built the relationship with them because they've already called. Now what we're going to do is start to put it into action. So if you're taking notes, which would be lovely, but if you don't, that's fine. I can pass out the notes later. There are 5 stages to working with a buyer. Okay, there are 5. And we're going to go down every one of them. I'm going to list them all, and then we're going to go back and talk about each and every one of them. So there are 5 stages working with the buyer. The first one is the pre-conversation activity, okay? We haven't even really met with them yet. We're only talking to them maybe on the phone. So stage 1 is pre-conversation activity. Step number 2 is the message. What message do you want to send? And the first message is about setting the tone. And this is going to be a very important section that we're going to come back to. Message number 2 is defining their perfect home, okay? Message number 3 are roles and expectations. And then the last is post-conversation activities. Okay, so now we're going to delve into each one of these a little bit more methodically. Okay, so stage number 1 is pre-conversation activities. Okay, it's not picking up the phone and them saying, hey, I'm in front of 123 Main Street, can you show me the property? Yeah, I'll be right there. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a very specific approach. So the first thing that people need to understand is that if everybody's going left, you want to go right. Everybody's jumping in the car to show that one property. What we're going to do is ask them for a meeting in the office, at Starbucks, wherever it is, but not at a home. Okay? A lot of people don't do that. You should be doing that. Ask for the meeting. And sometimes you're going to get some pushback on that. And that could be, well, why do I need to meet with you? So the dialogue is as follows. Are you currently in the market looking for a new home? Your prospect is going to say yes. How are you going about finding your perfect home? Okay. Some of these dialogues sound corny, but they're written this way for a very specific reason. Okay. They've been tried and proven to work. A lot of people don't say, how are you going to find your perfect home? And it might not even be a home that they're living in. It might just be their next investment home or their second home or their kid's home, whatever it is. How are you going about finding your perfect home? Most people will give you a waffling response like, well, you know, I'm checking on Zillow, I see realtor.com and so on and so forth. So what I would respond with that is, how would you like to use a proactive process that will ensure you get the home you want and, more importantly, want the home you get? Okay, think about that. A proactive process is the key word, or is the key phrase here. It's proactive because if they're looking at realtor.com, if they're looking at Zillow, if they're calling on signs that they see on the street, that's reactive. Those have already been listed. Those might already be sold. I was working with somebody in the office, in our other office, doing them a favor. They're trying to buy a property. Every single time they call me and they say, Jacob, can you call on this one? I would say, it's already pending. Okay, that's a reactive. Proactive is just the opposite. So you tell them you want to do a proactive process so that they can find their next home. The prospect will probably say, well, what is that going to entail? This sounds very complicated. It would begin with us getting together for about an hour so I can uncover exactly what you need in your next home, define your financial comfort zone, and thoroughly discuss the roles and expectations we would have with one another for a successful relationship. Okay, does that sound like something that would benefit you? And if they say yes, say great. How does 2 o'clock today work? How does 4 o'clock? Okay, you don't want to schedule a meeting 3 days out, 2 days out. They see signs from other people that aren't going to make them meet, and they're going to go talk to them, and they've lost all loyalty with you. They're probably not going to sell to buy something with them. They're going to run them around ragged. So you want to try and set it as quick as possible. Well, I have today at 10, today at 2, or tomorrow at 11. That type of thing. Give them a couple of options. And if they say no, they say, I don't see the value in that meeting, you might want to pass them along. Okay, maybe they're not that serious about spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to have a 1 hour meeting with you so that you can figure out what their needs are and you can respond to them. So try to set that meeting. Okay, it's very, very important. So when you display eagerness to help them, like with their financial situation, with their living situation, with making sure that they get everything they want in a home, their emotions are going to tell them that they need to be working with you because you care enough, not just go show that home, we'll write an offer and it's yours. Okay, we want to make sure that they want that home, not just because they passed by it. Okay, moving right along. Once we have gotten the meeting, and they come into the office, you want to move them to the conference room, okay? You don't necessarily want to sit them in your office, especially right now during COVID times, because it's too confining. But you put them in a larger room, like what we have over here at the office. I put dividers right up the center of the table so that people can feel comfortable. They can wear their masks. They could take them off. It's up to them. I prefer that they wear them. But I also know that when you have a mask on, it can become very difficult to work and to talk and to do this, that, and the other. That's why I put the shields on. So you want to get them into the conference room. And the first thing that you do when you get them into the conference room is you offer them something to drink. Okay? Why do we offer them something to drink? Is it because we really think they're thirsty? No, don't care. Okay? Offer them some water, offer them some coffee. When you go buy a car, the first thing that they do is, if you've noticed, and I've done several of these, you walk in the front door and then they say, well, why don't we have a seat? Can I get you something to drink? Usually the front desk person will ask that. Now, why do you think they do that? Studies have shown that people, I don't remember the percentage and I don't want to quote it because I could be wrong, but people are far more willing to buy from you if they feel beholden to you. And as simple as a glass of water can make them feel like they owe you something. Now, I know it sounds ridiculous. Water's free, okay? But if they feel like you've given them something, they feel attached to you. So keep that in mind. That's why you offer them water, because other people won't, and then they feel that they're yours, okay? They owe you something. So offer them something to drink, okay? The next step is going to be not part of the 5 steps. We're still within the 1 step, is building rapport with people, okay? You want to start by building rapport with them that has nothing to do with real estate. Once people get to know you as a person, they'll buy whatever you're selling, okay? The homes basically sell themselves. You need to sell you in order for them to buy that home through you, okay? So the first thing that you're going to do is, when you start building this rapport, is talking to them, like, share some common interests, okay? So what do you do for a living? You know, just out of curiosity, how did you find your way to Point Siena, Florida? Okay, believe me, nobody's from here. They came here. Okay, where did you grow up? What are some of your interests when you're not shopping for houses? You know, make a joke. Careful with the jokes. If you're not careful, you know, it could go south real quick. I've learned that one. So keep in, like, just share those interests. If you log onto the RE/MAX website and you find yourselves on there, a proper agent has filled out their interests. Okay, when you go through the steps of setting it up, they ask you, what are your activities? Scuba diving, Habitat for Humanity, sailing, fishing, whatever the ings are. You want to fill that out, because people will search for you based off of your interests. It's weird, but it's happened to me. People have called me and said, hey, I was online and I saw your profile and it says that you're a scuba diver. Well, yeah, I am. Tell me about that. That's an icebreaker. Okay. Well, I taught scuba diving in college and been very fortunate to have dove in many places. And then you can share the destinations with them. If you take 5 or 10 minutes and learn the people, it makes everything so much easier on the back end, with trust and with, you know, any type of blockade that's going to come in the future. Not to mention, you're their guy and they know other people that scuba dive, and they're going to refer you to a scuba diver, or whatever the situation might be. I'm just using that because that's what's in my mind right now. Okay. So you want to have that similarity with people, build that rapport. Other questions that you could ask, family related, they could be, are you originally from the area? How long have you lived here? What brought you to the area? Do you have kids? I'd probably stay away from that unless you see the kids. That I've noticed can take people, if they're trying to have kids and they can't have kids or whatever, it can make them a little upset, nervous. Why are you moving? Other questions you can ask about occupation. What do you do for a living? How did you get into that line of work? Have you been in that field long? Things like that. These will build that rapport and will build that trust. We haven't talked business. We haven't discussed anything about their finances. We haven't talked about anything of real importance. You're building that camaraderie. Okay. After you've done that, you can then start to move towards step 2 of the 5 stages of working with a buyer. Okay. So step 2 is going to be message 1, setting the tone. Okay. You want to set the tone with your clients or your future clients. Okay. Now there's a few different sections within it. You heard me say it last meeting. I'm going to say it again. You must set the tone, and the first tone is the most important, and that is we are in a win-win working relationship. Okay. I'm not going to do my whole spiel about what that means because I've already done it last class, but basically it has to be a win-win for everyone or there's no deal. Okay. One real quick example is you're in the car, you're showing them property, and they see a for sale by owner sign on the street. Okay. And they want you to call that and show that home to them. Now you've been taught, or if you haven't yet, you will be soon, that when you're working with a buyer and they want to see a for sale by owner, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't get paid. What it means is you go knock on that door and you say, listen, I have a potential buyer for your home. Would you be willing to pay me 3% commission, 2.5% commission, whatever, if I were to bring you a deal? Most people will say yes, because it's far cheaper than the 5% or the 6% that they were quoted to list the house. But if that seller were to say, no, I'm sorry, I am not going to pay you any commission whatsoever, you then return to the car. You never have the buyers with you during that. You then return to the car and you say, listen, I'm very sorry, but remember how I said originally this has to be a win-win for both of us? This is no longer a win-win for me. I cannot show you that home. Okay? And this is the reason why. This person is not willing to negotiate, is not willing to pay for my time, and I can't in good conscience. I mean, you could pay my 3%, that would be fine, but you're probably going to be overpaying for that particular home. So this is no longer a win-win for me. Okay? So that's an example of when a win-win could go south between a buyer and an agent. It can go south between a seller and a buyer all day long, but that would be that win-win relationship. So you've now established with them what your win-win relationship would look like. The next step within step 2 would be to create an agenda. Okay. You want to map out and you want to define for them what they should be expecting from you and throughout the whole process. Now, the agenda is you're basically going to say, this is the process. We don't go from step 2 to step 6. We're going to follow it all the way through, and you'll see as we get through each step why we've methodically selected this. Okay. Keep in mind, I told you in the beginning, this is going to weed out the people that are going to be a time suck on your business. Okay. You are only investing at this point in meeting number 1, 1 hour. 1 hour, that's it. Okay. And if they're going through the process with you, I'll invest more time. But 1 hour is far less of an investment than putting people in the car for 1 hour, for half a day, a full day, a few days, if we haven't even defined what they want up front. Okay. So it sounds labor intensive, but it's getting rid of all the garbage later. Okay. So we're setting up the agenda. We're going to talk about your perfect home, the characteristics that you need out of it, your wants versus needs. Then we're going to discuss your financial parameters. We're going to get your lender on the phone and make sure that you're able to afford this type of thing. Because I don't want to show you a $300,000 home that you're going to fall in love with if you can't buy the $300,000 home. You will never like your $200,000 home. And it's not fair to you. Okay? That's what we're going to set, that's part of the agenda. And then we're going to discuss mutual expectations, what you expect from me and what I expect from you. Okay. After that, the next message we're going to give after the agenda is confidentiality. Okay. I know it sounds a little ridiculous because when you go to an attorney, and unfortunately I've been to a few, can't stand them, but they say, you know, whatever you discuss, same with a doctor, whatever you discuss, I'm sworn. I've got client attorney privileges or doctor patient privileges. You want to make sure that you tell them that when they sign up with you, they are getting full confidentiality. Okay. Some of my buyers and sellers, I don't even talk to my parents about them. Why? Because many of them, they know their family, friends, and this, that, and the other. They have to, their friends will call them. It just happened a few months ago. We'll call them and tell them how great I am doing or what's going on over here. And they'll say, we had no idea. Jacob doesn't discuss this with us. People love that. Okay. You want to make sure that you tell them, I am not discussing your matters, whether they are financial or personal or whatever, with anybody. Maybe some people don't want them to know that they want a pool in the home or what, I don't know, whatever the stupid thing is. Nobody really cares, but maybe they don't want other people to know that. Okay. Or maybe they don't want them to know their financials. So make sure that you tell these people that whatever you discuss with me stays here. It doesn't go anywhere else, regardless of what the, regardless of what they might be thinking. Okay. I'm going to call out Ed for a moment, and Ed doesn't have to do anything here, but listen, is when I first got into the business, I needed to buy a house for myself. Now, my father told me I wasn't allowed to buy a house. Don't really know where he came into the mix, but my father told me I wasn't allowed to buy a house for at least a couple of years out of college. Why? Because he wanted me to rent and he wanted me to see what it was going to be like as a tenant, because he knew that I was going to be into property management later. And it's a lot easier to see from one side of the fence versus the other side of the fence. So I basically wore two hats. So I rented a house for 2 years and then I wound up buying. After that 2 years passed and I went to go buy a house, I needed a lender. I didn't have any money. I was right out of school. So I went and I found that Ed's wife, Charlene, over at Butler Mortgage, was a very honest and nice person. And I didn't know Charlene from a hole in the wall at the time. But I will tell you this, that when it was time for my financials and everything to go to Charlene, I said, hey, Ed, I'm over here at the office. Can I just give you the package to give to her? He said, you better put it in an envelope because I'm not going to be looking at it. Okay. And later down the line, Charlene and Ed, I found out through the grapevine, they never discussed my deal. They never discussed my financials. They never discussed anything about me. It was just another deal. So that confidentiality 15 years later has stuck with me. And I really appreciate that. That's what you want to make sure your clients know. Okay. Tell them about that confidentiality. Moving on. Now we're going to move to message number 2. So this is stage 3 of working with a buyer. Stage 3 is defining their perfect home. Okay. There are a lot of homes on MLS, a lot less than there used to be because the supply is down and buyers are up, supply and demand. But there are a lot of homes on MLS. Okay. We are not showing all homes on MLS. I'd want to shoot myself. Okay. It would be one thing, you know, when you first get into the business, why'd you get into the business? I want to help people. I love homes. I love showing homes. Well, that wears off real quick. Okay. It absolutely does. All homes look alike after the first 10. All right. So we want to sit them down. Remember, we still haven't gotten in the car. We're still in the conference room. What we are going to do is we are going to define their perfect home. They are going to tell us what they want in a home. Now I'm going to share my screen for a minute, and I want everyone to see, and I can pass these out. This form, can everybody see your name and phone number at the top of the screen? Thumb up, thumb down? Okay, thumbs up, good, thank you. So at the top of the screen, this is what you're going to give to your clients, okay? And this is the characteristics of your next home. And you can print this out and put it right there. Now, you'll see at the top, if there's an N, it's a need. So next to townhome, you'd put N. If it's a W, it's a want. You want to have them fill this out. You don't fill this out, they do. So what you do is you place this sheet in front of them and you step out of the room, say, I'll be back in a few minutes, not a big deal. Do you want anything else to drink? I've got to go make a quick phone call, and when I come back, we're going to discuss this. So when you come back, they've filled out this entire sheet with what their needs versus wants are. And it's very important to differentiate between the two. A need is defined by me as something that they have to have in the home or they refuse to move into that house. A want is something that would be lovely, but it is not necessarily a deal killer. Okay, so in our particular situation, what I mean by that is if they do not want stairs in their home for whatever reason, maybe they got a bum leg or whatever, they would not be putting a townhome as a need. You have now weeded out thousands of townhomes that you're not going to show them. If they have a need that the property must have 4 bedrooms, you're not going to show them a 3-bedroom house. Okay? If it's a need, that's what you're going to put in MLS, and you are not going to differentiate. That's what it is. Okay? So you're going to go through them one by one by one and explain to them what's going on. Now you've probably taken 1,000 homes, and after filling all of this out, you've whittled it down to probably 10 or less, which is exactly where we want to be. So you're going to whittle all of this down. And David Scott gave an excellent analogy. And I touched on it a little bit earlier, but the analogy is, you know, going and shopping on the MLS without any parameters whatsoever is like going to the grocery store without a shopping list while you're hungry. You're going to come back with a lot of food and a lot of things you really didn't even want. Okay? It's perfectly acceptable when your bill is $100 or $200 and you've wasted $20, $30, $50, whatever it is, on useless stuff. But it is completely unacceptable when you're buying a $200,000 house. Okay? Maybe you didn't need the pool. Maybe it could have been $180,000. Maybe you did want the pool and it should have been $220,000. You're going in unprepared. So that's why this characteristic sheet is very, very important for you guys to fill out before you even leave the office. Okay? Are there any questions or anything about what I've discussed regarding characteristics or anything at this point? Either wave at me or put in the group text, group chat. But what we're essentially doing is uncovering exactly what they want in the home. You want to verify, the next stage is verifying the buyer's motivation. Okay? You want to know why they want a 4-bedroom. Maybe it's because they wanted a 3-bedroom, they needed 3 bedrooms and needed an office. Well, now you can clarify that by saying, well, what if I got you a 3-bedroom home with a loft? Okay? This is how you can figure out what people's motivations are and build that rapport. If they're ready to move forward, the next thing is, I would say right after that is, okay, now we're going to go look at homes tomorrow. My question to you is, if we find your perfect home that fits all of your needs, what would stop you from writing an offer tomorrow? What that's going to do is uncover how quick they're ready to move. Okay? Now, our last meeting said, are they an A buyer, a B buyer, or a C buyer? So if during the meeting they say, well, if you had everything on our list and all of our needs are wanted, we're ready to write that offer tomorrow. They are an A buyer. They deserve our immediate attention, and we need to get this moving ASAP. If it's a bit, well, you know what? I got to be honest with you. We'd probably write an offer, but the truth is we need to sell our other home first. Okay. They are now a B buyer. Okay. We now know that we don't need to jump. We don't need to push everything off and get in the car and show them properties tomorrow. Maybe we can get a listing out of the deal, but we now know their motivation is a little bit longer. Well, then you've got the C buyer. Well, we're really kind of just looking at this point. We want to test the waters. Then your follow-up response is, well, you have to keep in mind, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, homes sell every day. And the homes that we're going to go see will most likely be sold by the time you're ready to buy. So this is no longer a win-win relationship. I'm not going to be able to sell you anything tomorrow or a week from now or whatever, because you're not able to buy right now. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to put you on a drip campaign so that I can keep in contact with you about potential homes that might be interesting to you. But I can't get you in the car and show you homes tomorrow if we're months away from you being able to make a purchase. Those homes just won't exist. Then we'll have to start all over again in a few months. That's how you test the motivation. So once again, your question is going to be, what would keep you from writing an offer tomorrow if we found your perfect home? That question will answer exactly what you're doing the next day. Okay? Moving right along. The last step in setting the tone is checking their financial ability. We want to know exactly what they can afford. So, Mr. and Mrs. whomever, have you been pre-qualified with a lender? Great, you have? Okay, can you share with me the pre-qualification letter, or can we get your lender on the phone to verify it with me? Okay. When you get the lender on the phone, you could say, hi, this is Jacob over at RE/MAX Pioneer. And I was, excuse me, and I was working with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and we're about to get ready to show them homes tomorrow, and I just want to make sure that they are pre-qualified for a blank amount of money. Oh yeah, I spoke with them the other day. They're qualified for $350. No problem. I would then turn to the buyer and say, great, I hear that you're pre-qualified for $350. How much of the $350 are you looking to spend? Okay. I want to go back and say this again. How much of that are you looking to spend? Now, let me explain what that means. They might be qualified for $500,000. They might be qualified for $350, but they might not be in the market for a $500,000 home or $350,000 home. Maybe they just want a $200,000 home. What this does is it shows your buyer that you care enough about their financials that you're not going to make them house poor. Okay? A person is going to hear, you don't have to spend $350,000 to move into a home? Well, that's great. Maybe they'll hear, wow, I got an extra $150,000 I could spend down the line with these people because they care enough about me. Maybe I can help my kids get into a home. Who knows what that can lead to? But make sure you say, okay, well, how much of that are you looking to spend? Because you should not automatically say the whole thing. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. At that point, we're going to ask them about their down payment. Do you have, I mean, if they're paying cash, that's one thing. We need to see that if they're buying a $300,000 home, that they have a $300,000, they're worth 300 grand at least. But if we're talking about a down payment, keep in mind that the lender is going to tell you that they're doing an FHA loan. So they need 3.5% down, plus they're going to need closing costs. Okay. Well, on a $300,000 home, that's over 10 grand just in down payment, 11 grand in down payment, plus closing costs, which could be another $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000. So you want to make sure to get a bank statement or something that states that they have 20 grand in their pockets. Why not know now before you leave the office? So take that. And if they say, well, I got to be honest with you, I'm not comfortable showing you that. All you have to say is, look, you can white out the bank account numbers. I just need to see a bottom line with something that says 30 grand, 20 grand. Okay? Don't waste your time. You can also say, look, I also have to be able to submit this with the offer. So if we find that home tomorrow that we just discussed, and there's nothing that's going to stop you from writing an offer tomorrow, I'm going to need that to show them that we're serious. So we need a pre-qualification letter and a proof of funds if you want. But at the very least, a pre-qualification letter. It has to go with the offer. Especially right now, there's a lot of offers going on. You know, you can get multiple offers on the same property. If they're waiting for a pre-qual letter, they're going to go to the next one. You want to make sure to have that up front. After we've done all of that, we're ready to close meeting number 1. Okay? We thank them so much for coming. We let them know that they have some homework just like you do. Okay? Our next meeting is going to be set right then and there. It could be the next day. It could even be later in the afternoon if you've started this early in the morning. Okay? You got to strike while the iron's hot. But that homework is as follows. You are going to start looking through MLS and identifying the properties that fits their needs versus wants. They are going to get a copy of the as-is contract or whatever contract you're going to be using, and you're going to say to them, please review this and make any notes of any questions that you might have, so that when we come back and we write an offer on the home, this is a dry run, we can answer all those questions up front rather than when we're under contract. Give them a copy of that contract. It doesn't do any harm. They can't do anything with it anyway. It's a great way of continuing building that trust. I'm giving you everything right up front. Make sure you ask me any questions you might have. So we're going to close meeting number, oh, I'm sorry. We're not going to close meeting number 1 just yet. I lied. Don't lie to them. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to define our roles and expectations. That's stage number 4. Stage number 4. Roles and expectations are very important to set up front because most conflicts arise when people feel like the expectations were breached. Okay, so actually, David Scott writes, it's been my experience, this is what you tell them, it's been my experience, conflicts arise only when expectations differ. So if you set the expectations up front, there's no conflict. So what you're going to do is then you're going to talk to them about expectations. Now on the screen, I'm going to share my screen. This is an excellent page to give to your buyers and your sellers. So let me share the screen. Can you see my role, your role on there? Okay. So what this is you're going to put this in front of them and you're going to review what the expectations are, my role versus your role. So this is what we can expect from you, or this is what you can expect from me. All parties are going to be treated honestly and fairly. Always ensure we keep a win-win relationship. I'm going to respect your time, needs, and finances, which means when we set an appointment for 10 o'clock tomorrow, don't show up at 10:30. I'm going to respect your time. You have to respect my time. I'm a busy person. And you say this nicely, okay? Be on time for all meetings. Communicate with you openly and frequently. Represent your best interest in any and all negotiations. I'm going to develop and implement a complete negotiation strategy, whatever that means. Let them know you have a strategy. They love that. Consult you throughout the buying process to reach an informed and intelligent decision. I'm going to skip a few. I'm only going to show you homes that meet your criteria. Remember, they filled out that paperwork. That's their criteria. We're not going to show them homes that don't fit that criteria. We're going to assist them with scheduling inspections and closing document review. We're going to respond to all of their issues in a quick and timely manner. And we're going to provide you post-closing information and consultation services. which could mean as simple as help them figure out what the power and the water company is, what the garbage days are, things like that, so that when the deal is over, it's not over. You're still their consultant moving forward for whatever homes they might have to purchase or people that they know. Now, their role is going to be, this is what we expect from you, Mr. Buyer. I want you to be on time for all those meetings. Keep all appointments or call to cancel if you can't make that appointment. You have to meet with your loan consultant in a timely manner. Remember, your contract allows for 3 to 5 days for them to fill out the paper to get a loan started. Otherwise, they're in breach of contract. Do not make any large purchases that will get you debt against your debt to income ratio. If you open up a credit card, it changes their debt to income ratio. If they go and buy furniture for the new home that they haven't even bought yet and they have to finance it, that changes their credit. If they buy a car, that changes their credit. This has happened time and time again where the deal is done right before closing because they can no longer afford it. They have to stop all major purchases that hits their cards. They want to respond to mortgage and title companies, inspections, and everything in a timely manner. Loyalty. You want them at this point to know what loyalty means. I'm doing all of this for you. If you drive by a home with somebody else's sign on it, their duty is to call you to show it to them. Don't call the agent on that sign. That's not loyal. We're working very hard for you. We've invested all of this time and energy into you. Don't call them, call me. We don't make money. You can be very honest. I don't make money when you go buy from somebody else. Please give me that respect. Okay? Respect sellers' properties. When we're walking into homes, don't bump into things and break things left and right. If anything changes in their situation, inform them immediately. And also have fun and enjoy the buying process. So I hope you guys find benefit in that sheet of paper, which I'm happy to send out to everybody. Okay? It really is very good to set that expectation up front. So that when they get mad at you for something, you can say, listen, this is what we all agreed to. I know somebody that actually makes them sign it, that they've received it. It's a little dumb, but whatever. Okay? People that sign something, they feel in debt also, like drinking a bottle of water from you. Okay? They feel like they've signed something. Oh my God, I've signed something. Doesn't mean anything. So that's what you're going to want to do in order to cover mutual expectations. Then you're going to close the meeting. I was a little bit early. You're going to close the meeting. You're going to send them home with a copy of their contract. You're going to let them know that you're going to be preparing tomorrow's showing or this afternoon's showings or whatever it is. And you're going to get that all taken care of. You're going to print the MLS documents for every one of them. You're going to print the tax records for every one of them. Why? Because a lot of people want to know what these people paid for it and when they bought it and all this type of information. Well, why not? Now, what they paid for it really should have nothing to do with what they're selling it for, but you look very, very informed when you have that information. Okay? You could also tell them on the tax documents, it says they also pulled a mortgage out on it 3 years ago for $180,000, which means they probably still owe $179,000. Okay? Good information to have. Okay, any questions about any of that? After you leave that meeting, you're going to want to send them a thank you note. Thank you for taking it. It could be a 2-liner. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to meeting with you and going through this process with you. Now, even if you're showing them homes tomorrow, they won't have time to get it from the mail. Guess what? They're going to open it in 2 or 3 days, and it's going to be dated the day of the meeting. It translates. It says that you still cared enough to write to them. It's like $1 or less. Very, very powerful. Okay. Now we're going to speed it along to the day of showing. We're all excited. We just gone through our 1-hour meeting. We probably just spent 2 or 3 hours putting together the showings, calling the agent, setting up the times and this, that, and the other. You're so excited you can't stand it. Maybe add a cup of coffee. Don't show them more than 10 homes at a time. Okay. And I think that's too many. Now, a lot of people are going to say, but I'm only here for one day. I'm from out of town and I need to get it all in. Okay. But if you've done your job, Mr. Agent and Mrs. Agent, if you've done your job and you've done their needs versus wants, you should be able to show them 5 homes, 3 homes, 6 homes that fit all their needs and wants. Why do they need to see 4 more? Okay. That's why you need to get it down to as few as possible without being too low. So you got to, and you can even say to them, you could even throw out that little, oh, my broker says, I don't want you showing more than 10 homes in a day. My broker doesn't like that. Okay. He thinks that it's information overload for the buyer. Okay. Most buyers are going to say, I can deal with it. Don't worry about it. I'll take copious notes and this, that, and the other. Believe me, they can't deal with it. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to get them in your car or during, well, that's the perfect situation, is getting them in your car and continuing the rapport and talking to them and this, that, and the other. But right now we've got a COVID out there. So we're not putting them in our car. They're going to follow us. Okay. So they're going to follow us. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to show them house number 1. Do not play tour guide. Okay. I've made this mistake many times. Everyone knows what a toilet looks like. They don't have to be told this is the bathroom. Okay. I promise you they used it on the way over. Okay. What you want to do is you want to get there first and say, you know what? Let me go inside before you. Just give me 3 minutes. You're going to walk in, you're going to open up the door, the windows, the blinds. You're going to turn on all the lights. Then you're going to walk back outside and say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'd like to show you this home. They walk in and get that immediate first impression of the lights are on, the fans are going, there's light and bright with all of the sun coming in the windows and everything like that. And they'll know right off the bat if this is a good home for them or not. And you say, take your time. I'm going to be standing here. If you have any questions, let me know, but feel free to mosey throughout the house. Okay? They have to envision themselves walking through the home. They don't need you showing them. Then you're going to leave. You're going to close the lights. You're going to close the shades. You're going to leave, and you're going to go to the next house. Okay? Now, after you leave the next house, very important, and I've told some of this to you before. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we just got out of 123 Main Street, and we also passed by 567 Elm Street. Which one did you like better? Oh, I got to tell you, Jacob, Main Street was terrible. You know, Elm is way better. It's not what we like just yet, but it's way better. So this is what you're going to do. No problem. You tear the paper in front of them. Not like this, but, you know, okay, no problem. Nonchalantly, just tear it and put it on the car seat next to you. We have just eliminated that from their minds. It's done. Because why would they go to second best when they've got first best right there? You compare 1 to 1. You don't compare 1 to 10. Then you go to the third home and you say, cool, you know the deal. I'm sure you picked up on it last time. Did you like this home better than the second home, or the second home better than this home? You like the second home better? Great. You just teared up home number 3. So you have just disassociated them with that home. By the end of your 6, 8, 10 showings in one day, you've only gotten it down to 2 or 3. They have just forgotten the other ones. Because I promise you, if you don't tear it up in front of them or do something drastic, they're going to get confused with what homes were which. They have to get it out of their minds. I love doing that. I've done it many, many times, and it works every time. It's really actually kind of fun to do too, by the way. So afterwards, you've just completed all your 10 showings. Now remember, at the meeting that we had yesterday or earlier in the day, you're going to say, you told them, we are going to find your perfect home. What is going to stop you from putting in an offer tomorrow? Well, today is tomorrow. Or yesterday was today. You figure it out. Anyhow, it's today. We found the home that they wanted. It has all their needs. Are we ready to write up an offer? So sometimes you're going to get people that'll say, well, I need to think about it. I need to pray on it. I need to meditate on it. I've heard that one. I do meditation. There's nothing going on in my brain that's going to make me buy a home. It's ridiculous. They need to think about it. So here's what you're going to follow up with them on. No problem. I totally understand that. I get it. This is a big financial decision. And I actually have done this before. But I will have to tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the market is red hot. You know that homes are selling every single day. And I'm not telling you to put an offer in today. This is a big decision. But how would you feel tomorrow if you woke up and said, Jacob, I'm ready to put in my offer, and I told you it just went under contract last night? How would you feel? Some people will say, no problem, it wasn't meant to be. Let's go to our second favorite home. Because remember, we tore 8 other sheets of paper. So we have a backup. Okay? And you're going to say, okay, no problem. No problem. But if they were also to say, well, I'd be pretty upset if we lost that home, but I do feel like you're pressuring me a little bit, so I need that, take that time. Say, no problem. But I do want you to know that this is the ramification otherwise. Okay? You're creating that urgency because you want to write that contract today, not tomorrow when they pass by 3 other for sale signs going home. You want to end that. So that's how I would deal with that. Sometimes you'll write up the contract and sometimes you won't. Sometimes people are going to get nervous about it. But this entire process is designed to weed out people that will waste your time and to also, and most importantly, weed out buyer's remorse. Okay? You've just worked with people on defining their wants and their needs. You've worked with their financial parameters. You have dealt with all of this, okay? You've told them that they can afford this. Their lender has told them that they could afford this. They like the home. You don't want that buyer's remorse the next day after writing the contract that says, you know what? I got to get out of this. I'm backing out. And when you go through this whole process, you're eliminating most of that buyer's remorse. And they're never going to tell you I got buyer's remorse. They're going to come up with something stupid like, well, the inspection didn't come back the way I wanted. Okay, well, we can work on that. That's all part of negotiation. Okay, we can deal with all of that, but that's how they would basically back out. But you don't want to be 10 days later and not have a deal. So that's how we deal with that. The other thing, and the last point that I'm going to make on this, is low ball offers. Okay, well, Jacob, you know what? You found my perfect home. I love it. There's just one problem with this home. It's the price. Okay. Well, we can work on that. That's part of the negotiation. I want you to offer $120,000. They could take it or leave it. Now, being a realtor, you technically have to present that offer. Okay? But there's nothing about being a realtor that doesn't say that you can't come back to them and guide them in a better position. Here are your talking points. Number 1. Sir, ma'am, do you remember when we first started, this had to be a win-win relationship? This is no longer a win-win relationship. The seller is not winning. I am not winning. You're stealing. Okay, we're not stealing homes, we're selling homes. You want to make sure it's that win-win. That's one way you can go through it. The other thing you could say is, sir, the market, everything is dictating that this home is maybe not worth 200, but it's worth 180. We should make that offer. Maybe 175. We can make that offer. Okay, that is a win-win relationship. Why do you have to win for someone else to lose? Okay, there is that fine line. You want to deal with this on a human level. And guess what? They're not going to get it for $120,000. They're not being serious about buying the home. Okay. That also goes back to the expectations, the my role versus your role type of thing. You can add a line in there, make legitimate offers. That's how you deal with lowball offers. Okay. The last thing that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to be handing all of this out as well because this is really very good. I'm going to share the screen. This is everything that we discussed today. The complete buyer process. It goes from meet in the office all the way down to close the offer. This is everything that we discussed. My role versus your role. Gain agreements on roles. Close to work the relationship. Mail the thank you letter. This is everything right here. Okay. I'm gonna email this out to everybody today. This is good for you to have. I'm gonna email out the my role versus your role. We're gonna have all of this so that we're well equipped. If you need help with dialogues, I'm happy to help you with the dialogues. I got a lot of these. Okay. Happy to help. Now I have some questions from the group. I'm gonna swing back and then we'll go ahead and end the meeting if there is anything else. So question number 1 is good morning. That's a statement, sorry. Question number 2 from Latoria. Is there a form like an estimate, forgot what it's called, for the lender to show what they can afford monthly? Yes, the lender provides that. It's called a truth in lending statement. Okay, a truth in lending statement. The lender has to provide that. We are not lenders. We are not licensed mortgage brokers. We are not able to, sorry, I dropped my pen. We are not able to provide that information. So the truth in lending is what's going to be given out by the lender. Good question. Next question. Can you give an example of when you have left several messages, texts, and emails of how to approach a buyer you first spoke with, but has not returned your messages? How would you approach this on email or voicemail? Okay. Are they currently under contract with you is my question back to you, whoever this is. Okay, if they're not under contract with you, they're not a buyer. Okay, thank you. They're not a buyer. They're wasting your time. It's one thing to do a several touch system so that they could become your clients. But at a certain point, you got to draw the line and move on to somebody that's going to spend some money with you. Okay, we're not here to make friends, although you should be making friends with your clients. We're not here to make friends with people that aren't being serious and proactive about buying a home. So at a certain point in time, if you've called and left them a few messages and text messages, it's time for you to back off. Maybe they're out of town. Maybe they're not feeling well or whatever. But the last thing you want to be known as a pest. So I would say most people will travel for a week or less. So if you haven't heard from them in a week, they're done with you. They've moved on to somewhere else. It's time for you to move on. But it should not be several calls and several texts a day. Do one a day until either you hear stop bothering me or move on. Okay. Do you have a form to hand out on why we should be their choice to present them as a realtor? I don't have an exact form for that. That's all part of this whole process, is the rapport that you're building. Okay. Now, as you get more proficient in your dealings, you can put together, do you know I put 10 people in my car this past month and I sold 5 of them homes? So that means that 50% of everybody that you work with buys a home from you. Why is that? Because I'm good at what I do. Okay. I have that process. I'm not throwing darts. Okay. So you could get that. 8 out of every 10 people that get in my car will buy a home from me. It'll never be 100%. Don't worry about it. And that number would look ridiculous anyway. But you want to get that number up. When you sit them down in the meeting and you explain to them, this is why people buy from me, is because this is my process. I am putting you in my process. I'm not just getting in the car and showing you homes you're never going to buy. I'm going to show you homes you want to buy. That's how I would present myself to these people. Okay. It's not that people, I just want to take a step back about that for a second. You have to explain loyalty to people. Okay. And we did it a little bit earlier, so I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, but you have to explain loyalty. I don't make money if you don't buy a home. but I don't want you to buy a home that you're not going to like. Okay, that's how you build that loyalty with people. Okay, you have to explain to them, I'm not going to show you 20 homes, 30 homes, 40 homes that you're never going to buy. Then you're going to go buy the home on the sign from the sign guy on your way home. That's not how I work. Okay, you've got to present that to them. They will see value in it. They'll also see value in you being very busy. I have 10 o'clock today or 2 o'clock today. Okay, these are the types of things that you're going to explain to them because they want to see that you're busy doing things with other people. Okay, so I don't exactly have that sheet, but a lot of this dialogue is going to help you with that. Good question. Anything else? And by the way, you can create that sheet and I can help you create that sheet. Happy to do so. I just don't have one I can give you today. Are there any marketing suggestions you have so that we can go out and seek buyers? Good question. That was the class that we had last week, which was about an hour long, so it'd be a little tiring to do it for everybody again. But what I will do is I have all these classes recorded on YouTube, but I do have that you can watch. It's part of our channel. But what I do have is I can give you some quick hits and tips and tricks offline of how to go out and do it. But basically, in a nutshell, our class last week was all about direct mail, sign calls, how to deal with them, dialogue heavy, making sure that we can convert people to get them into this class process. Okay, so I'm happy to help out with that, or you can watch the video, no problem whatsoever. Any other questions, comments, concerns, anything? Okay, guys, I really appreciate it. We'll do it again, I think, in 2 weeks. Next week is a sales meeting, and I'm looking forward to it. I wish everybody a successful day. Thank you.